So many temple members and people from the greater Memphis community have asked me about our latest Israel trip, which returned in recent weeks. I don't know about you, but few things bore me more in meetings than hearing someone come back and report on a trip that you didn't go on. I despise that. What I have learned from leading so many temple trips, especially in the last 7-8 years, is that Israel adds a dimension to one's Jewish identity, particularly the way we go on temple trips, that's highly personal and impossible to convey via a sermon. So I am not going to rehash the powerful, emotional, deeply moving experience those who traveled with me and Cheryl had only a few Shabbats ago. The testimonies of these temple travelers are the best sermon on that subject. Instead, as we approach this Tuesday's commemorative holiday in Judaism, Tisha B'Av, it commemorates the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. A word tonight about what happened in Israel this week after our temple travelers began the trek back to Memphis. This week's news came to me from my good friend, close friend, bright rabbi named Jeff Salkin. He writes a blog entitled, get this, Martini Judaism, for Jews who like to be shaken and stirred. Jeff, a Reform rabbi and brilliant mind, recalls how a number of years ago, he's not a rabbi in New Jersey, but he was in Port Washington, New York, and he was attending a rather large gathering of Jews in New York, and on Shabbat, he found himself sitting at a table with a group of ultra-Orthodox Jews. And let me be clear, this is not modern Orthodoxy like Baron Hirsch or Anshe. This is ultra-Orthodox Judaism, including some rabbis who hailed from Brooklyn. And right after the Motzi, these fundamentalist brothers started talking about what we now refer to as the hood. They were complaining about their black neighbors. And suddenly, one of them used a word that Jeff had not heard in a very long time, the Schwarzers. These ultra-Orthodox Jews were talking about the Schwarzes, a word we don't permit in this synagogue, and that ought to be banned in the Jewish community unless the Jewish person speaks only Yiddish. You ever wonder why somebody who speaks English slips into Yiddish? Whoa, Jeff said to himself. This was unlike any version of orthodoxy he had ever encountered before. It was not the orthodoxy of my teacher I brought here, Rabbi Yitz Greenberg. It's not the orthodoxy of my Rabbi Shai or Joel or of the late Rabbi David Hartman or of Adin Steinsaltz or of the former British chief rabbi we just watched, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. The term that many ultra-Orthodox use to describe their practice is Torah-true Judaism. Was this Torah-true Judaism, Salkin asked? If so, then what about the words emblazoned on the Temple Israel building at Poplar and Montgomery as you drive downtown? Leviticus 19, the Holiness Code. You know, the Torah verse, love your neighbor as yourself. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, I am the Lord. What about the 36 times, 36, that the Torah tells us to take care of the stranger? Isn't that also, or even chiefly, Torah? Now, if you know Jeff Salkin, I'm mild compared to him. He was always brasher than I ever will be. And so he turned to one of his offending neighbors at the table, and he asked him point blank, do you daven with that mouth? You see, Rabbi Salkin could not conceive of a mouth that uttered the Shema or sang Adon Olam or chant psalms using racial slurs. They looked at him like he was crazy. Let's just say the grace after meals, the Birkat Hamazon, could not have come any faster for these other rabbis. Fast forward to what happened 4 days ago in Israel, Monday of this week, On Rosh Chodesh Av at the Western Wall. You don't read about this in the Jewish press, but you need to know it. Monday was the first day of the new moon, Rosh Chodesh. And since Second Temple times, Rosh Chodesh has become the focus of particular celebration by women, Jewish women, including our own temple Rosh Chodesh women's group, led for years by Sally Rosenberg. Well, in Jerusalem this past Monday, a group of women known as Women of the Wall and numerous friends and supporters and fellow prayers, they went to daven on their female side of the wall. What happened next is hard to believe. They were met by busloads of ultra-Orthodox Jews who blocked their access to the Western Wall. And those who were coming off the bus greeted our non-Orthodox women, sistren, and brethren with Nazi salutes and Heil Hitler. I'm not trying to be sensational. Rabbi Salkin even sent a video documenting the screaming of these women, their need for police protection, and the blowing of whistles by the ultra-Orthodox to disrupt these women who simply wanted to pray their way in peace in the manner they wished to. And when I watched the wall that Cheryl and I just left 2 weeks ago, I had to ask myself, who are the more authentic representatives of Torah true Judaism? The screaming hordes or these women praying? And once again, Rabbi Salkin writes, and I quote, I want to say to these ultra-Orthodox brethren and Hasidim, do you daven with that mouth? Do you wrap tefillin on the arm that you raised in a Hitler salute? How about the way that many of the ultra-Orthodox refer to their brethren who now choose to serve in the Israel Defense Forces? They ostracize them, ridicule them. They'll even seek to make them citizen soldiers unmarriageable within their frum community. In fact, some ultra-Orthodox residents of Mea Shearim in Jerusalem actually physically attacked an ultra-Orthodox soldier, God bless him, who joined the army and was home visiting his family. The Jewish community doesn't talk about this, but it should, and not Reform Jews. Frum Jews should speak up. Blacks should not have to speak about racism. Whites who slander blacks should. Women should not speak up about feminism or about harassment of women. Men should speak up. Gays don't have a problem when there is homophobia. That's a problem of we who are heterosexual. There's even a new term, if you know Hebrew, that's been coined. Eliezer Ben Yehuda, you know Ben Yehuda Street, the founder of modern Hebrew, he would have never imagined this. What's the term? Chardakim. It's a combination of the term charedim, ultra-Orthodox Jews, and the Hebrew word for germs and insects, chaydakim, charakim. That's the term, if you read Hebrew, you see graffitied in ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods because of some of them who are joining the army. There are comic-like caricatures of soldiers portrayed as fat, bearded, monstrous kidnappers of children. Imagining Jews as insects, Jews as germs, caricatures of fat, bearded, evil Jews. It's right out of Der Strumer's playbook. This Tuesday, Tisha B'Av is coming. It's the 9th day of the month of Av, the traditional date of the destruction of both the first and second temples, along with a few other historical tragedies that just happen to be lumped into that date. Unless you are an observant Orthodox Jew, thank God you know what Tisha B'Av is, and we in the Reform and Conservative communities can thank Jewish summer camps for rescuing the observance of Tisha B'Av. But maybe consider this thought. Tisha B'Av is no longer about mourning a devastated city of Jerusalem. Maybe Tisha B'Av today is about mourning our devastated values. You know, the Talmud says, why was Jerusalem destroyed? You know why? Not just because our people neglected saying the Shema or praying. It's because they lost their sense of shame, the Talmud says. It's because they failed to recognize the authenticity of the other because of baseless hatred. The Hebrew term is sinat chinam. We already have Yom Kippur for personal sin. By the way, 7 weeks from Wednesday is Rosh Hashanah. Can you believe it? But maybe Tisha B'Av, as Salkin is suggesting, should be about communal sins. Because every mitzvah we do contributes to the rebuilding of the temple, said the Hasidic teacher, Reb Naftali of Ropshitz. But you know what? Every evil deed, including so-called religious Jews shouting Heil Hitler at modern Jewish women, destroys the building of any future. So on this Shabbat, as tomorrow's bar mitzvah, Luca Turl will chant from the Torah right where I stand, we begin the fifth and concluding book of the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy. And in the Hebrew Bible, this book is called, do you know what it's called? Words, Devarim. The words refer to Moses' parting speech. That's the entire book of Deuteronomy. As I shared at the Shiva Minyan last night, the fifth book of the Torah is a repeat of the first 4 books. So why not just have 4 books? Why the repeat? And I close with this to tie it up. Jewish commentators noted that there is a substantive shift in the Torah from the first 4 books of Moses to this final book. Unlike the first 4 books, Moses' words take on special urgency because it must stop where Moses' feet do, on the other side of the river. And when his speech ends, so will his life, because as you and I know, he never made it into the promised land. So Moses makes repeated appeals to the children of Israel. Shema Yisrael, listen, listen. What's the shift? Up to now, the Torah has been about observing, keeping, becoming a people in covenant. There's talk of mitzvahs, the things we need to do to make our lives sacred and meaningful. But this Shabbat, this last book, marks a shift. The shift is from observance of the Torah and keeping it. Here's the key word: to transmitting it. Because Judaism of Moses' time was not the Judaism of Akiva's time. The Judaism of 1800 was not the Judaism of 1500 or 1200. What these non-Orthodox women at the wall, what we're trying to do is transmit Judaism forward, not backward. For those who wish to adopt an ultra-Orthodox, Hasidic lifestyle, good, hareze meshubach, it's a beautiful path for those who adopt it. For the 28% of Israel's population and the 12% of the American Jewish community. But for the 72% and 88% of Israel and America who are non-Orthodox and wish to transmit Judaism in our own time and place in a different manner and voice that connects and relates and creates this music and enables 20-somethings to relate to their Judaism in large numbers, not just 1 or 2. That's the Judaism. That's Torah true also. And that's prophetic Judaism, one that includes and embraces, not one that excludes, shuts out alternative views and says, my way is the right way. Your way is not. That's okay even to say that. But how dare anyone block the access of women to pray the way they want to at the Western Wall? Now, whether or not we rebuild the temple in Jerusalem or Memphis, please never abandon the underlying values of goodness, decency, and civility, as many Jews of all streams do, including our Orthodox in this community and beyond. Because the end goal, it's not ritual, it's ethics, actions, mutual respect, not just my respect for orthodoxy, but vice versa too. May each of us respect each other and not get in the way of each other's prayers. And let us say, Amen.